I want to talk about something that has a tendency to get people fired up, the patriarchy. And before you click away, please just hear me out. This is not about male bashing. Isn't even really about men. It's more about a system that doesn't allow us all to just be who we are and to feel what we feel. When I talk about patriarchy, I am talking about the masculine, and the masculine is different from men. Masculine traits are things like doing, taking action, more like a foundation, the structure part of things, whereas the feminine, and again I don't mean women, is more the receptive energy, the caring energy, the recovery after the masculine action. And in the patriarchy, it's not just who has the power, although typically in a patriarchy, the men have the power, but all of us suffer in the patriarchy. I love Brene Brown. If you guys haven't listened to Brene Brown's stuff, I would highly, highly recommend it. In one of her talks, she's talking about how, she's at a speaking engagement. A man comes up to her afterwards and he says, your argument is really convenient, because essentially what she was talking about is, this need for us to be more vulnerable and to be able to connect. And so he says, your argument is really convenient. And then he points to his wife and his daughter. And he said, they would rather see me die on my white horse than to ever see me be vulnerable. And let's just rewind that a bit. I mean, how many of us feel like that? Like we look to the men in our lives to be strong, to be put together, to never show emotion. And then part of that is because when we don't have that masculine inside of us developed, and masculine and feminine should be in all of us, in order to be in balance. We can't always be in doing energy. We can't always, be holding everyone else up. So we have to move into that feminine receptive energy, into that rest energy. And so in us, in women, and in the feminine, we should have this masculine energy, this stable, foundational, strong energy, so that we don't rely on the men in our lives to do it for us. Because what happens when that isn't developed in us is that when they become vulnerable, or they start to show what we may label as weakness, it destabilizes us because we don't have it developed in ourselves. And so this is why men have all of this pressure. And this is why when I say the patriarchy, this is not just the men creating the patriarchy, it's also the women. I mean, how many women have lived under circumstances because they rely on the man in their lives to provide things like financial security? That was true for my mom. High school education, they were in an abusive relationship, her and my dad. And she stayed because he was her financial rock, and partially because they were Catholic, and Catholics don't get divorced, but that's another story. But this is why we can't just blame the men for the patriarchy. It's a system that we have subscribed to because there are benefits for us all. But in this system, it means that people have to fill roles that they may or may not want to fill. Like, who wants to always be in charge? Who wants to always be making the decisions? Who wants to always be the person who is providing that financial security, who's probably working themselves into the ground to do it? So this is why when I talk about the patriarchy, it isn't just the men, and it isn't just the women who suffer, because the patriarchy also teaches men that their worth comes from their performance. It comes from maintaining power, from maintaining control. It comes from their net worth, and this isn't healthy for the men either. And when we talk about the patriarchy, we also need to talk about what it would look like to heal the patriarchy, what it would look like to move into a more balanced system where it's not the patriarchy or the matriarchy. It's this partnership where we blend and we complement, and when one person is needing support, the other can provide for that. And it's not just about taking power back. It isn't about shutting the other person down. I remember I was at a training, and someone had gotten COVID. And one of the assistants, he was a medical doctor, and he got up and was telling us how we could support our immune system. And Some of the women and some of the non-binary folks in our group got upset because they didn't think that a man should be able to get up in front of the group and speak, and it was offensive to them. They felt like it was a power dynamic, and with him being a white male, he shouldn't be allowed to stand up in front of our group and speak. The next day, he got up to apologize, which I was like, why is he apologizing? He was giving us information from his expertise, but during his apology, these same people stood up, and some of them left the room, some of them asked for him to sit down and to shut up, and I remember my nervous system getting activated, and at some point I started to cry. And one of the facilitators came up to me and asked me if I was okay, and I'm like, no, this is not okay. This is not the way that we take our power back. Our power does not come from shutting someone else up. That is not how we gain our power. And the fact that they were treating him exactly the way they didn't want to be treated themselves was not okay. And so this is what we have to realize. As I understand, I spent 25 years in the military, and I can tell you the military is not a place where men and women are equal. And so I get the anger and I get the frustration, but we don't heal through anger. And yes, there is sacred rage, but it's not through this anger that we're going to heal. It's through taking the time to understand each other, to voice how we feel, and then to figure out, okay, how do we solve this problem together? How do we join our voices and share the power and share our strengths and support each other's weaknesses? This is how we heal. It's not through shutting the other person up or taking their power. It's about learning how to share the power, learning how to support each other. And so this is my challenge for this week. I want you to notice how you either reward or you reject vulnerability. Is there someone in your life that you're forcing them to fill a role because it's not something that you have cultivated inside of yourself? Because every time that we make it safe to heal, we make it safe to be vulnerable, we make it safe for people to use their voices, then this is how we heal. And that's how we start to come together. It's by choosing love. It's not by choosing fear. It's not by choosing hate. It's not by acting through anger or acting through that hate. It's through acting through our love. And this is why I'm going to keep coming back to, when we choose love, this is how we heal. So if this resonates with you and this is a conversation that you want to continue, share your thoughts down below. Let's really make this a conversation. Send it to other people that you think might benefit from this conversation. Hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell so that you get notified whenever we start a new conversation. Because this is how we infuse love instead of hate and fear and division into our homes, into our workplaces, into our communities.